I have another guest here, and his name is Dr. Robert Peavler, and he is professor of voice at Eastern Michigan, right? That's Robert.
Yep.
Yeah, and he has put together this amazing 8 volume collection that literally dropped in my inbox today, and it's called a Modern Music for New Singers. And since we are talking about working with composers and new music, I wanted to introduce you all, first of all, to this collection and to Robert. So congratulations, Robert. I don't think our students realize what an achievement this is. I mean, there must be what, 50 composers? More than 50 composers.
I think it is 91 composers.
All living.
Almost. There is one composer, Wayland Rogers, uh, submitted his songs, and unfortunately, he died shortly
Okay.
thereafter from cancer. But he was so excited about the project that he was sending his songs in um, before we had the call actually fully issued for composers to ask for songs. He had heard about it through one of the associate editors that was a friend of his, and he's like, oh, I want you to look at my songs. And so except for Wayland, everybody is a living American composer.
Now, one of my criticisms about much new music written for voice is it's just too darn hard. And one of the things that you've done that's so brilliant is that you've got a collection for young voices, and by young you mean really young, like high school to early college, and then you have a collection that is perhaps more suitable to slightly more mature students.
Mhm. Yeah, I have spent the last 20 years of my career doing a lot of adjudicating, especially for solo and ensemble festivals around the country. And one of the things that always stands out to me is that whenever there is a contemporary requirement in a competition, that it is being filled by songs that were written in the 1940s, 1950s, and we are almost coming up on 100 years old. I don't know of anybody that thinks of contemporary as equaling, 50 plus years in the past. And there are some really lovely folk song books out there for young singers. There are some good arrangements of lots of classical music for young singers. But one thing that there just isn't until now has been collections of songs by living American composers that were really chosen and curated specifically to be sung by singers in that 16 to 21 age range, and to introduce these living composers to young singers in a way where they are going to want to go and explore more of these composers' works. So we saw a real need for this artistically and in the marketplace as well. And I have to say that one of the things that I just am so proud about these books about is that we have composers that are ranging from really the top name composers in art song, American art song,
Yeah.
the world,
Well,
all the way down to a couple of students who were finishing their bachelor's degree. And it was because we did a as blind a review as we could of going through the music. I established a team of 3 other teachers from other universities, as well as Valerie Trujillo at Florida State University, who is a fabulous coach accompanist, if you ever get a chance to work with her. And she went through all the piano
wow.
music to make sure that that this was also music that would be playable by someone who was not a professional pianist, but was, more of someone who might accompany a high school singer at a solo and ensemble festival. And the other teachers, Katie Calcamuccia Donner at University of Louisville, Amy Petrangeli at Baylor University, and Albert Lee, who has just taken on a new position at Yale um, as their director of diversity and inclusion in the School of Music, their first ever at Yale. And they all helped me to go through these songs and to really make sure that they were appropriate artistically and technically and textually for the younger level singer. And so the fact that we can have these beginning level composers all the way through the top level composers in the same book that are appropriate for young singers is just, it's really fantastic. We chose the songs in a way that for the first anthology, for the younger singers, there are some easier songs. There are some songs that would be sort of a medium level song. And then there are a couple of stretch songs in that anthology that easily could have gone in the second anthology for the more advanced or older singer. So even if you are a beginning singer or in high school, but you are really advanced in your study, the first volume will have something for everybody.
That's great. And I must say this crosses over into something I'm talking about with our students at the Voice Festival, is that really composers of art song are very, very accessible. I mean,
Oh,
you were able to get to the whole breadth of the field.
yeah, it was amazing how many it is. They are accessible, but I will say they are only accessible if you know who they are. And
And this will
even,
help.
yeah, and even I, who have been doing this for a long time and am a real proponent of American art song, as I started researching for this project, I spent months just combing the internet for any person that I could find that had ever written an art song, and then sent them an email inviting them to submit their materials. And I was introduced to this wealth of composers that I did not know. And so one of the things artistically that has just been wonderful for me in compiling these songs has been meeting so many new composers that are doing such varied, incredible work, not just in art song, but in multimedia presentations and concert music and instrumental composing and opera and exciting chamber music. And these people I really wasn't aware of. So the internet is, of course, a wonderful and dangerous place all at the same time, and culling through all of the different names of composers that are out there to try and create a list of working American composers of song is something that'll probably be the next project that I hope to get up published online somewhere, so that we have a more definitive list of people who are again currently writing right now, and especially young composers who they're writing beautiful music, and they just need an audience, and they need people to sing their music. If nobody had been singing Schubert's music in Schubert's lifetime, we wouldn't know it. It would not be what it is today, and we need to represent our young composers as well as our established composers. And I have to say that the older generation of art song composers in this country, Michael Yu, Laurie Laitman, Tom Chiapullo, David Conte, these names that people all recognize, they are so incredibly supportive, financially supportive, emotionally supportive, artistically supportive of the younger crop of composers that are coming up. And they all have contributed in different ways to these anthologies, for which I am extremely grateful.
That's great. Great. You are publishing it primarily online as a PDF download. Is that correct?
It is. We decided. Well, so this is how this came to be. I uh, I really have been a big supporter of Glendower at Classical Vocal Reprints, who just is really a cultural.
Asset.
Yeah, I mean, he is
Treasure.
amazing, a treasure. That is exactly the word I was looking for. He's a cultural treasure for us in the world of song, and he offers a lot of things as downloadable PDFs, and I've purchased a lot of that music. And as I started looking around at many people's websites, they were all selling their music on their own websites as PDFs, and I started to realize when I thought about all of the anthologies of songs that I have in my library as a teacher, that anything that was really from 2000 forward, almost all the music that I have is music that I have either purchased as a PDF um, or bought from a composer independently. And I started wondering why that was. And not to be critical of the publishing industry in the country, but I think it is fair to say that the major publishers for years have been repackaging mostly the same art songs, and they'll come out with a new version or a new anthology of contemporary songs by just putting the same songs in different orders and or changing the cover of the book. And but it is all the same songs for the most part. They might throw a new song in here or there. And so as I started wondering about that, I thought, well, if we're going to do this project, I think the best way to do this would be to sell this as a download, because my goal in doing this was not to make $1 million. Having
No.
having made a CD of American art song, as well as publishing a book on Francis Poulenc's songs, I have already learned that I am not going to make $1 million off from those types of projects. So I wanted to create a project where we would make enough money to be able to keep it self-sustaining, but mostly that we'd be able to support younger composers getting their music into the hands of singers. And that's what this anthology has done. I think that the financial arrangement between the composers and North Star Music is a lot more generous than what they would get if they were trying to do this type of thing through a major publisher. And the only reason we're able to do that is because we're independent.
Sure.
And so that the PDFs keep the price down so that we can sell it at a reasonable amount to get it into people's hands, but still get a good chunk of that money back to the composers. Now, we did realize going through the process that one of the things that we had forgotten about was libraries. And to get the music into university libraries, into public school libraries, choral programs and things, we are going to sell hard copies to those types of institutions. And there's a place on our website where schools can go and submit an application and then purchase a hard copy of that. But we'll do that on a print on demand basis for people.
Well, thank you. It's a very exciting thing. There's really been nothing like it I can think of in my lifetime. And so it's very groundbreaking, and I think it's going to be useful for years to come. And really, for a young singer, you can go through one or two of these volumes and discover dozens of composers that you've never heard of who write intriguing and beautiful music.
And the other thing I'll say that I think is really different about this anthology is that and this goes back to, I have to say that a real inspiration to me over the years has been Joan Boyton, who's a longtime private teacher through Nats, and almost every teacher will have some of Joan's series of songs, which is the first song of soprano solos, and I think down through the third volume of that. And Joan was in Pennsylvania at the same time I was there as a teacher, and she was a graduate from the college that I was teaching at that time. And so I got to know her through that process. And We talked a lot about publishing and getting started with those kinds of things. And as these books were coming to be, one of the things that I didn't want was a set of soprano, mezzo, tenor, bass books where it was all the same music transposed into different keys. So one of the really unique things about the series is that there are only a couple of songs that are duplicated between books. And they were just a couple of songs that we thought, well, this is something we really wanted to include in more than one book. There is one duet by Andrea Clearfield for baritone and tenor, and we put that in both the baritone and tenor second anthology. And then there's another song by Dave Ragland that we wanted to have a representative of a spiritual that he had done. And we thought, well, this needs to go in more than one book. It's terrific. But outside of that, they're songs that were written with that voice part in mind, instead of just transposing the keys, which sometimes when you do can really muddy the accompaniment if it's too low or too high, and those things sometimes don't work out the way you think they will.
Well, congratulations again, and I expect it's going to be very, very popular.
Well, thank you, and to all of you at the Savannah Song Festival, I hope you have just a terrific experience there this summer. I have heard nothing but wonderful things about that festival. I know we have a number of composers in the books that have worked there at the festival. That's and right. Michael, thank you for your contributions in the song, the world of song and of opera. And for those of you students, if you haven't explored Michael's operas, you need to talk about groundbreaking. We did his speed dating tonight here at Eastern Michigan a few years ago, and we've never had a better student response to a performance than we did of that work. And it is really because of the incredibly creative way in which Michael has come up with structuring that type of a piece of music for people to choose music that suits students. So have a fantastic festival, and to check these books out, buy them, support new music, and thank you. It was a pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you. That's terrific.